Escalating demonstrations in Iran, triggered by the struggling economy of the Islamic Republic, are increasing the strain on its theocratic governance. Tehran continues to grapple with the aftermath of a 12-day conflict initiated by Israel in June, during which the United States targeted nuclear facilities in Iran with airstrikes. The economic strain has worsened since September, following the reintroduction of United Nations sanctions related to the nation's nuclear program. This has led to a dramatic decline in Iran's Rial currency. Since the onset of the Israel-Hamas war in 2023, the coalition, known as Iran's self-identified Axis of Resistance, comprising various nations and militant factions supported by Tehran, has suffered significant devastation. A warning issued by US President Donald Trump to Iran, stating that the US will come to the rescue if Tehran violently kills peaceful protesters, has gained new significance following the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by American forces. Maduro, who has long been an ally of Tehran, adds a complex layer to the situation. What is the extent of the protests taking place in Iran, and what prompted their inception? These protests are occurring during a period of diminished alliances for Iran, and the West worries about the Asian nation's nuclear program. Additionally, what factors contribute to the strained relationship between Iran and the United States? Here's all you need to know. According to the US-based human rights activists news agency, protests have spread to more than 220 sites across at least 26 of Iran's 31 provinces. The report indicated that the death toll has risen to a minimum of 20 individuals, along with over 990 people detained. This organization, which gathers information through a network of activists operating within Iran, has maintained a track record of reliability during previous instances of civil unrest. Grasping the extent of the protests has proven to be challenging. The Iranian state media has been tight-lipped regarding details about the demonstrations. Footage shared online delivers only fleeting, unstable views of individuals in the streets, accompanied by the distant echoes of gunfire. Moreover, journalists operating in Iran encounter various restrictions on their reporting, including the necessity to obtain travel permits within the country and the looming risks of harassment or potential arrest by the authorities. Despite the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's declaration that rioters must be put in their place, the protests show no signs of abating. The downfall of the Rial has triggered an escalating economic crisis in Iran. Costs for essential foods such as meat, rice, and other staples commonly found on Iranian tables have surged. The country is grappling with an inflation rate hovering around 40% annually. In December, Iran implemented a new pricing structure for its subsidized gasoline, resulting in hikes for some of the cheapest fuel globally, which places additional strain on the populace. Tehran may pursue even higher price adjustments in the coming months, as the government has decided to reassess prices every 3 months. The initial wave of protests started among merchants in Tehran before expanding further afield. At first, the focus was primarily on economic grievances. However, it wasn't long before demonstrators began voicing anti-government slogans as well. Resentment has been building for years, especially following the tragic death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini while in police custody in 2022, an event that sparked widespread protests across the country. Iran's axis of resistance, which gained significant influence in the aftermath of the 2003 US-led invasion and subsequent occupation of Iraq, is currently facing a crisis. In a brutal conflict in the Gaza Strip, Israel has crushed Hamas. Meanwhile, Hezbollah, the Shiite militant organization based in Lebanon, has lost much of its leadership to Israeli actions and is now struggling to maintain its strength. In December 2024, a swift military campaign resulted in the ousting of President Bashar Assad, a longtime ally and client of Iran, after years of ongoing warfare in Syria. Additionally, the Iranian-supported Houthi rebels in Yemen have come under heavy bombardment from Israeli and US airstrikes. In the meantime, China continues to be a significant purchaser of Iranian crude oil. However, it has not extended any explicit military assistance. Similarly, Russia has also refrained from offering direct military support, even though it has banked on Iranian drones in its conflict with Ukraine. For many years, Iran has maintained that its nuclear endeavors are solely for peaceful purposes. Nonetheless, officials from the nation have progressively issued threats about developing a nuclear weapon. Before the US military action in June, Iran had been enriching uranium to levels close to those suitable for weapons, distinguishing it as the only nation globally without an active nuclear weapons program to engage in such activities. In recent years, Tehran has notably reduced its collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations regulatory body for nuclear activities, amid escalating tensions surrounding its nuclear initiatives. The Director General of the IAEA has cautioned that if Iran chooses to pursue weaponization, it could potentially develop up to 10 nuclear bombs. US intelligence officials have determined that Iran has not initiated a weapons program as of now. Yet, it has undertaken activities that better position it to produce a nuclear device, if it chooses to do so. In a recent statement, Iran declared that it has ceased uranium enrichment at all facilities within its borders, aiming to convey to the West that it is still receptive to possible discussions regarding its nuclear agenda in an effort to alleviate sanctions. However, since the war in June, there have been no meaningful negotiations. Many years ago, Iran stood as a key ally of the United States in the Middle East, particularly during the reign of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah invested in American military armaments and permitted CIA operatives to establish clandestine listening stations aimed at surveilling the Soviet Union next door. In 1953, the CIA orchestrated a coup that solidified the Shah's grip on power. However, in January 1979, the Shah, who was gravely ill with cancer, departed Iran amidst a surge of widespread protests challenging his authority. Subsequently, the Islamic Revolution, spearheaded by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, established a theocratic regime in Iran. Later in that same year, a group of university students stormed the US embassy in Tehran, demanding the extradition of the Shah, an action that ignited a four-day hostage crisis and resulted in the breakdown of diplomatic ties between Iran and the United States. In the 1980s, amid the turmoil of the Iran-Iraq War, the United States provided support to Saddam Hussein. As the conflict unfolded, the US executed a brief yet impactful military operation that severely weakened Iran's maritime capabilities, a phase of the war often referred to as the Tanker War. Subsequently, the US military mistakenly shot down an Iranian civilian airliner, claiming it was confused for a military aircraft. Since then, Iran and the United States have oscillated between hostility and reluctant diplomatic engagement, with their relationship reaching its zenith during the 2015 nuclear agreement. This landmark deal required Iran to significantly curtail its nuclear ambitions in return for the alleviation of economic sanctions. However, in 2018, Trump made the decision to withdraw the US from the agreement unilaterally, which ignited rising tensions in the Middle East, a situation that escalated further following Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7, 2023.